question we have to ask and answer is, what are communication skills? Communication skills are skills, as the name suggests. They are abilities that enable the exchange and interpretation of information. Now, a skill by definition means that it is something that should be learned. So the question is, what are these communication skills? In general terms, you can classify them into 4 categories. There's reading, speaking, listening, and writing. Communication skills are sometimes referred to as soft skills, as opposed to what they call hard skills. Hard skills are those that you get from your subject area, your content area, whereas soft skills are these skills that enable you to function, such as communication, such as decision making, such as situational awareness, teamwork, and all the others. There are many types of communication skills. You have verbal skills, you have non-verbal skills, you have visual skills, written skills, among others. Now, having established what these communication skills are, what is communication? I want to read a definition from Pearson and Nelson 2000. They define communication as a process of understanding and sharing meaning. What that simply means is that no communication act is ever the same, even when you try to repeat the way you communicated the day before or even 5 seconds ago. Understanding means to interpret words, to interpret objects, to interpret signals. A third concept is sharing. That is, conveying ideas and emotions collaboratively together. So it's a collaborative effort. The last concept in the definition is meaning, which implies that you have to make sense of what is being communicated. Effective communication, for purposes of this class, is goal-oriented, meaning when you want to communicate, you must have a goal in mind. This is the only way you can measure if your message has been received the way you intended. The feedback that you get will gauge if your communication has been effective or successful. So there are these elements that define what a communication act or event is, or looks like, or must be. What are these elements? I'm going to list 8 of them. The source, which is the originator of the message. The message itself, which is the content being communicated. The channel, which is the medium that is being used, such as speech, or is it in written form. And then you have the receiver. The receiver is the target audience. You have feedback, which is the response from the receiver. You have the environment, which may be psychological and physical. Psychological, which has to deal with the mind, the state of mind of people involved in the communication act. Physical, that is the actual place where the communication act is taking place. And then you have context. Context, these are the circumstances that surround the communication. The last element is interference, which refers to the noise or barriers to understanding. So any interference, any distortion, anything that disturbs the communication process is what we call noise. So every communication act may have all of these or a number of these. I am going to summarize the models of communication in this way. The models of communication contain the elements of communication. Some models have all of those 8 elements. Others may only have a few. The communication models can be categorized into 3. You have the linear models, which state that communication is a one-way process. It moves from the sender to the receiver and it ends there. For example, Aristotle and Shannon and Weaver's first model before it was revised. And then you have interactive models like Osgood and Schramm's model, which emphasizes that communication is a two-way process. Sender, receiver. The receiver becomes the sender and the sender becomes the receiver. And then you have the transactional models of communication, which emphasize that communication is a simultaneous process. It is not as simple as the interactive model theorists say it is. Transactionists argue that when one is sending a message, they are also receiving messages at the same time. So it is simultaneous and it is governed by a number of contexts, such as the psychological context, the social context, the physical context, and other contexts that make the communication process more complex than what earlier models have said communication to be.